I predict that 2023 will be the year of climate, where all of the control mechanisms and lessons learned from the last 3 years will come into full force. 2020 was the year of the contagion, allegedly global contagion, and then what powers they could usurp and put into action as a result of it. 21 was the year of the diapers, seeing how much fear they could instill in people and what behaviors they would be willing to take, supposedly willingly, in order to enforce the rules of the establishment. How much they'd be willing to turn on each other, and how long you could keep people acting and believing in this way despite the fact that all evidence points to it being basically useless. 2022 was the year of the juice, cashing in on all the benefits of the previous 2 years into physical cash, and seeing how long you could drag it out for cash in the future. Then the restrictions, the behaviors, and the other powers you're able to usurp as a result of people not doing this. How much freedom could you take? How far would people be willing to go? Will they stick around in the military, the police force? Will they be able to stick it out? How far can we press them before they just willingly do it or lose their job, lose their career? The threat of contagion, imminent death, and sickness will always be there. The lessons that were learned in 2021 and 22 are always in the back pocket. There was bird flu and swine flu and whatever else, and there will be more. That whole strategy is all mapped now. So in 2023, the challenge is, how do you create the perpetual contagion? How do you take all of the lessons that you learned from this and apply it to something that could exist in perpetuity forever? That wouldn't be subjected to death counts or people talking to each other and saying, do you feel this way? How did you feel after this happened? The human element, the human variable. What is the one thing that sits outside of that affects every single person in the entire world, yet presents the exact same threats? Those threats being loss of life for adults, old people, children, whatever. How do you create that same fear? How do you create that same fear in a way that theoretically affects all countries unilaterally, where you can't just have one country or one zone say, nope, we're not going to play this game, a la the Amish, for example. The perfect storm, pun intended, is the weather. Because the weather represents an equal threat to all people of the world. And because there's going to be disasters no matter what, because there already was, there will be plenty of public evidence. You could show destruction and people suffering as a result. You could play on those emotional heartstrings. It'll do it for you automatically. Now, whether you want to believe it or not, weather manipulation has existed for many, many years. There's more than enough documentation. This is not a conspiracy theory. It's literal, pure fact. But take weather manipulation out of the equation anyways. Weather, climate, whatever, it changes, especially over long periods of time, decades, centuries. There's ebbs and flows and swings. You can look past through history. And the length of recorded history where we've been able to accurately keep track of the weather anyways is not even really all that long. Then you take into consideration the human element, the fact that people can lie with statistics. Where are the things that measure these weather events? For example, there's a lot of them near airports. If it measures a temperature at an airport, but there's a lot of jets taking off or planes taking off, could that affect it? Could people that are willing to lie to you about all these things that will create such damage and destruction around the world, could they manipulate these numbers in exactly the same way? Of course. But what the weather allows them to do is the exact same thing that the sickness allowed them to do, except forever. And with everything. We're talking food, travel, commerce, shelter. The first and most obvious step is already in motion, which is putting a chokehold on the utilization of natural resources. There is plenty of oil. The United States has the largest oil reserves of any nation in the entire world, but not allowing them to drill it under the guise of, again, the same thing. It's always the weather. Means that they can't drill. By putting a chokehold on these natural resources, you're increasing costs. So obviously we know what increasing the cost will do on the population. It makes them less free just by default. And obviously after that, you can create solutions, right? Oh, eat the bugs. But first, it's the natural resources. Then it's the land. It's going to be preserving all of the land, the farmland, large spaces. That has to be preserved for the globe, for the planet. And it won't just be preserved like a park is preserved where people can go there. It'll be preserved and untouched, only accessible by the establishment. And of course, the elites that own them. As they take more and more control of the land and the resources, well, you can't travel through there. You can't travel over there. Again, cutting back on your movement, your ability to travel. Remember, they think you're a useless eater. They want you to stay in one spot all your life, like a prisoner. So you eliminate the resources, make them more expensive, create some solution that funnels money to the right places, limit the ability to travel and start segmenting off areas of the land that people can't go and will never be able to go. And just like that, the cell becomes smaller. It won't be long before that's extrapolated to international and domestic travel. You can only take so many flights per year, for example. Only so many flights will eventually be so many miles driven, so many miles traveled in general. So now they got movement, energy, what's next? Food. Food, the essential building block of life and health. Meat being a huge part of that. Only the best nutrients, only the best meat will be reserved for the elite, the ruling class. And of course, you gotta eat the mealworm and the bugs, the lab-grown meat. Under the guise of climate, they'll say you can only purchase so much meat, so much chicken, so many eggs in a time frame. Oh, and by the way, you can't raise them at your house. You can't have a farm because if an individual citizen has too much land, like you would need to have cows, well, that's bad for the weather, the climate, right? Limit the amount of land that you can have, force you closer and closer together. Now you can't have any cows. Now nobody can raise their own meat themselves. Just slowly but surely, step by step. This is the clear path. This is not going to happen overnight, but this is what they're going towards. It's clear as day. So you can only eat so much meat, so much eggs, so much chicken, so much beef, so much pork, whatever. Well, how will they track those things? Well, in a cashless society, in a social credit score society, that'll be really easy. You walk up to a freezer and try to open it to grab the beef, it doesn't open for you. Sorry, your retina scan or your face scan doesn't permit you because you've allotted your total amount of meat consumption for the month. It'll be really easy with travel as well, cameras in cars, Teslas, all that stuff, your phone that tracks you, flights, even easier. Just like the sickness, they'll get people to turn on their neighbors and rat each other out using the media, the emotional manipulation of, oh, this person doesn't care about the planet, about everybody else. So whatever they can't convince people to rat out of their family members, of their neighbors, the rest will be done using drones and, of course, analyzing your digital footprint. Which, if you were to watch a documentary like Citizen4, for example, you know that the technology to not only monitor and track, but log your entire behavior is 10 plus years old. Every single search, every movement, every behavior that you take on your digital footprint logged forever. Now, of course, they can easily demonize anybody that is to question this strategy, both digitally and also in real life, using laws on speech and things. Oh, it's hate speech. Vaguely defined definitions that mean that words essentially are violence or they're inciting violence. And because everybody's so emotionally wrapped around their fingers, you can convince them to believe pretty much whatever. And of course, you can frame them, plant stuff on them, whatever. Or at the very least, smear them in the court of public opinion and then wait 10 years until the case is dropped. By then, the damage is done. You can get all of your corporate friends that all shake hands with each other to completely shut you out of whatever ecosystem is necessary in order for you to live and communicate. We've already seen that be done. So the next step is using the lessons learned over the last 3 years to say, if you don't comply with this, if you don't behave, you are hurting other people. Then by using other laws like your First and Second Amendment and slowly but surely infringing on those rights, it means even at the very end of it, the human element, you wouldn't even have the ability to defend yourself or communicate your understanding with others. And there you have it, the blueprint for complete and total enslavement. Perpetual control until the end of time. That is the final piece. Because this climate, this weather, this planet is the ultimate contagion. It's the ultimate thing that you can tie all this stuff back together to. It affects everyone. We're all in it. And unless you're a supposed expert, your opinion is completely null and void because you look around and you see that it's beautiful, but you're not an expert. You don't know what the big picture is. You can't see these satellite images that we can only provide. And over the course of this next year, the blueprint is so clear that you'll either start falling further under the spell or the clarity will become even more clear to you as it has been in previous years. Because the ramp up is imminent. And the next theoretical selection that's to come in 2024 will be here before we know it. And this year will be the year that they sow all of these ideas and implant them in the minds of the people so that they can all be pressed over the course of 2024 leading up to that selection, whether you believe your opinion in it matters or not. So it's not all doom and gloom though. I'll leave you with some parting wisdom. Number one is to be happy and enjoy your life because truly there is nothing to fear. Of all the darkness and evil that has perpetuated throughout this world up until now, this is the safest and best time to ever be alive in the history of human existence. No question about it. And just as much as life is to be enjoyed, death is also not to be feared. Death is just as much a part of life as life is, interestingly enough. And I know that that's kind of deep, but the point is we need to enjoy this human experience no matter what they're doing. And no matter how much they take from us out here in the physical world, they can never take what's in our heart, what's in our mind, what's in our soul, and what the Creator has in store for us going forward. The next is to remain positive and continue to be a beacon of light, a thought leader, a thought distributor, a truth teller. because you are the most important piece of this entire equation. And really, you are the only thing that can truly shed light on this bad situation and turn the world for the better. Yes, you, the individual. The next is to know that the fight will never end. It's yin and yang, it's duality, it's the perpetual battle between good and evil that exists in humanity and in the world forever. Our success is not measured in what we see as progress right now, but in what it means to the grand picture spanned over a long period of time. If you live a good life and you stay joyous and happy and healthy, and you're giving back to the universe, to the zeitgeist, to humanity, to the human family, what you know to be good, then it's a life well lived no matter what. Because we have to recognize the beauty in the process, the gift that is the challenge, the never-ending belief that you were put here to process this piece of information and this series of information and happenings at this time for a reason. You are necessary to the success of humanity. The simple fact that you even made your way to this type of content and this video in general shows that you have some significant thing to contribute back. So I encourage you to embrace the beauty of the challenge. Start the new year running. Have an unwavering belief and determination to never give up. Not only at living the best and highest quality life that you can, but never give up contributing back to the rest of us and the future that will ultimately be just like we are, star beings and descendants of all the great people who have done great things before us. So long as we maintain that belief and that understanding, it's a life well lived and the future is bright. Because like I said, it's yin and yang, it's duality. The light wins in the end, and life is a beautiful challenge as much as it is a beautiful ride. So stay upbeat, get yourself as healthy as possible, embrace the present and believe in the future. And no matter what they try to do, your high vibration will carry you through it to a more prosperous and more loving place. 2023, let's get it.